It was one of those calm mornings when everything seemed to be in its proper place, and the air smelled fresh as the sun shone through. My usual morning routine unfolded. Coffee in one hand, laptop open in front of me, a quiet moment before the chaos of the workday began. As I settled in, the golden morning light cast soft lines across my kitchen counter. My condo in Charlotte felt peaceful, predictable. Then my email notification chimed. I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. Perhaps an update from my real estate investment company or a report from my assistant. Managing properties across the state kept me busy, but nothing in my inbox typically rattled me. Then I saw her name. Sarah, my wife. Or at least she had been. The subject line was brief and almost casual. I hesitated before clicking, then opened it. My world abruptly shifted. The first thing I saw was a picture. Sarah, draped over the shoulders of a man, her arms wrapped around his waist. She was beaming, radiant, as if they had just won the lottery. They stood in front of my vacation home. The home I had paid for. The home I had dreamed about for years. The home where I had envisioned us escaping the city together. Beneath the image, a short message. The house is mine now. I've moved in with Jake. The divorce papers will be sent to you by my lawyer. Don't contest it. The deed is in my name. Sorry. No justifications, just a statement. I put my coffee down and slowly exhaled. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. Instead, a calmness settled over me, the kind that always preceded Sarah's storms. She had always been impulsive, reckless. She loved the thrill of victory, but never excelled at long-term planning. This was a foolish move, one she believed would allow her to take what wasn't hers. I stretched my fingers and backed myself into a quiet corner, where I could think. I hovered over the keyboard before typing a single response. Are you certain? Then I hit send and blocked her number. She had just declared war, and she had no idea who she was dealing with. Looking back, I should have finished my coffee. I should have seen this coming. The signs weren't just there. They were flashing, neon bright, demanding my attention. But like any man too engrossed in his work, I had convinced myself that Sarah was simply going through a phase. I believed that whatever was making her distant, distracted, and impatient would pass. As I sat in my office, replaying the last few months, the truth crystallized. She had been planning this for a long time. It had started with those weekend getaways to the vacation home. At first, they seemed innocent. Sarah had always loved unwinding by the lake. She claimed she needed the solitude to be creative, and since I was constantly occupied with my real estate ventures, I encouraged it. Time apart could be good, I reasoned. Then the trips became more frequent. Then they became private. She stopped inviting me. If I questioned her, she'd brush it off with flimsy excuses. You wouldn't like it, sweetie. I'm just unwinding. And I had let it go. After 6 years of marriage, people need their own space, right? Then came the late-night calls. I would glimpse her on the balcony, whispering into her phone. Her voice was deliberately casual, but her posture was tense. When she caught me watching, she'd roll her eyes and laugh. Calm down, Jason. I'm just discussing layouts with my designer friends. She had always been a skilled liar. I had been a fool. The real wake-up call should have been the night I told her about my biggest investment deal yet. I was thrilled, proud. It was a historic agreement, one that would secure our financial future for decades. She barely looked up from her phone. That's great, baby, she muttered, flat and uninterested. No excitement. No pride. No recognition that my success was ours. In that moment, I should have known. She had stopped seeing my achievements as shared victories. Instead, she viewed them as hers alone. Sarah loved pretending to be successful. She enjoyed name-dropping, casually mentioning her involvement with the elite investors' circle. But she wasn't an investor. She was an interior designer dabbling in house flipping. She picked wallpaper and throw pillows. I had built everything. The relationships, the investments, the financial empire, and the vacation home. It was mine. I had paid for it in cash, believing it would be a sanctuary for us both. A retreat from the demands of our fast-paced lives. A place to create memories. But Sarah had insisted her name be on the deed. It's just for tax purposes, she had reassured me. And I had believed her. I saw no need for an argument. Unbeknownst to her, I had already consulted my lawyer before signing anything. Every document I created safeguarded my investment. As I sat in my office, I recalled that condescending email she sent, the one where she thought she had won. But she made one fatal mistake. Her arrogance was evident in every word, a miscalculation that would cost her dearly. Months ago, I had logged into my security system and set up cameras at the vacation house for insurance purposes. I never imagined they would serve a completely different role. When I clicked on the live feed, I saw Sarah lounging by the pool with Jake, her new 23-year-old boyfriend. He had the haughtiness of a child who had never built anything, drinking champagne as if they were celebrating a victory. Jake had nothing of his own, just the smug assurance of someone who lived off others. I clenched my jaw, sitting in my own home, wrapped in my bathrobe, sipping whiskey. Breathing heavily, I rewatched weeks of footage. Sarah sneaking Jake in at night, the two of them hosting intimate dinner parties, Jake driving my car shirtless, parading around as if they had erased me from existence. My chest tightened, but it wasn't heartbreak. It was strategy. Sarah had given me all the proof I needed. The money she had embezzled, the affair she flaunted, the property she believed was hers. She had taken nothing from me. I wasn't going to shout, cry, or send drunken messages. No voicemails pleading for explanations. I was prepared to wait. Sarah had declared war, and she had no idea who she was dealing with. Her face twisted when my assistant, behind the glass wall, calmly informed her that I wasn't available. Instead of screaming or begging, she turned toward the door. She hesitated but never looked back before leaving. That was the end of Sarah Carter, the woman who had tried to steal my future and lost her own. Sarah was never the type to accept defeat. She twisted reality until it fit her narrative. If she played the victim, sobbed at the right moments, and lied convincingly, she believed she could always get away with anything. But not this time. On the morning of her final day in my house, I got up early, made myself coffee, and opened my laptop. The vacation home's security feed was already queued. I didn't need to watch it to know how this would end, but seeing it unfold in real time gave me a certain satisfaction. Her bags were half-packed. She stood in the middle of the living room, pale, as if the weight of her choices had finally settled. This wasn't just an inconvenience. Her entire life had unraveled. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling as she scrolled through her contacts. I watched as she hesitated over a name before making a call. My phone rang. I debated for a moment, then answered. "Jason," she murmured, her voice small. "I don't know what to do." I leaned back, taking a slow sip of coffee. "Not my problem." A sharp inhale. "You don't have to be like this." I remained calm. "I understand, Sarah. You think everyone exists to be used. You thought I'd suffer for you. But you lost." "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "But do you really want me to be homeless?" I exhaled, shaking my head. "You made this choice, Sarah. You wanted this life without me. Congratulations, you got it." Silence. "At the end of the day, leave my house," I said firmly. "If you're still there at midnight, the police will remove you. Your choice." A weak, broken laugh. "You really hate me now, don't you?" I didn't hesitate. "I have no feelings for you, Sarah." I ended the call. By 5 p.m., she had barely moved. The security feed showed her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Gone was the smug woman who had written that email. By 8:30 p.m., she had packed only what she could carry. She made one last round of phone calls, not to me, but to friends and family. No one answered. The same people who encouraged her to leave me had vanished. She had burned every bridge. At 11:45 p.m., she finally walked out. "Hello." She paused at the door, holding a single suitcase in one hand, her phone in the other. She turned, staring at the house, still in shock. Then, silently, she disappeared into the night. The next morning, Daniel called. Sheriff's office came by. Just a formality. She left without a word. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling deeply. "Good." He hesitated. "I hope you're doing okay." I nodded. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Sarah disappeared. No money, no calls, no emails. Jake skipped town, chasing whatever small-time scam he could find. The money she had stolen was frozen. No credit. No job. Nothing. Meanwhile, I moved forward. I buried myself in my work, reclaiming my time. On weekends, I returned to the vacation home, just as I had always intended. Sitting on the terrace, overlooking the landscape, I reflected on how close I had come to losing everything. But she never could take it. In the end, Sarah had only betrayed herself. Months later, I received an email from her. Subject: Jason, I know I don't deserve your time, but... I hesitated before opening it. I lost everything because I made a terrible, awful mistake. And I have nowhere else to turn. I closed the email. And I never looked back.